Welcome to Golden Rule Wisdom, where we explore the profound depths of unyielding faith through stories that touch the human soul. Meet Hannah, an 83-year-old woman whose face carries the deep map of a half-century of waiting and unceasing prayer. For 50 long years, she placed a lit candle in her window, a beacon of hope piercing through the darkness. Every single night, without fail, she performed this simple ritual, whispering a prayer for the return of her son, Samuel. To understand her devotion, we must travel back 50 years to a stormy night that shattered her world into pieces. It began with a heated argument. Words sharper than knives were exchanged, creating a rift that seemed impossible to bridge. Consumed by youthful pride and anger, Samuel grabbed his bag and declared he never wanted to see his mother again. He stepped into the pouring rain, letting the storm swallow him whole, leaving behind a silence that would last decades. Hannah chased after him into the downpour, her voice cracking as she called his name, but he did not stop. She watched until he was nothing more than a shadow, and then he was gone, leaving an emptiness in her heart. That night, the house felt colder than ever before, and the silence was deafening, marking the start of her waiting. Back in the present, Hannah traces the face of her son in a photograph, worn smooth by 50 years of touch. Seasons changed, winters turned into springs, and decades rolled by, yet Hannah never once wavered in her nightly vigil. Every evening at sunset, she lit the candle, a signal to the universe that her door remained open for him. The villagers began to whisper, calling her the woman who waits for a ghost, looking at her with sad pity. Even the local pastor came to visit, sitting gently beside her, suggesting that perhaps it was time to let go. He told her that Samuel was likely gone forever, and that holding on to this hope was only causing her pain. But Hannah looked him in the eyes and refused to accept the logic of the world over the conviction of her heart. She believed that faith is not a transaction where we give prayer and expect an immediate result in return. Faith, she realized, is the courage to trust even when the door remains closed and the silence stretches for years. It is a spiritual stubbornness, a refusal to believe that love can ever be truly lost or wasted in God's eyes. While the rest of the world slept in darkness, her little light remained burning, a testament to a mother's enduring love. As years turned into decades, Hannah's body grew frail, but her spirit remained as strong as the iron of her will. Even when walking became a struggle, she dragged herself to the window, ensuring the ritual was never once broken. She knew her time was coming to an end, yet her concern was not for herself, but for her missing son. One evening, sensing the end was near, she sat down to write a final letter, pouring her heart onto paper. She wanted him to know that he was forgiven, loved, and that he had been missed every single day he was gone. She placed the note beside the candle holder, a final message for a visitor she might never see in this life. That night, Hannah closed her eyes for the last time, her heart full of peace, trusting her prayers were heard. The next morning, the candle had burned out, and the house fell into a stillness it had not known before. The villagers gathered to pay their respects, mourning the woman whose faith had been a constant fixture in their lives. But just as the sun began to set that very day, a dusty car slowly made its way into the village. A man stepped out, grey-haired and weary, carrying the heavy burden of 50 years of regret and separation. It was Samuel, returned at last, drawn back by a pull he could not explain, only to find the house silent. A neighbor approached him gently and broke the news that his mother had passed away only the night before. The weight of the timing crushed him. He had waited too long, and now the opportunity for reconciliation seemed lost forever. He entered the home, walking through the shadows of his childhood, feeling the lingering presence of the mother he abandoned. His eyes were drawn to the window, where he found the candle holder and the letter she had left for him. With trembling hands, he unfolded the paper, and his mother's voice seemed to fill the room as he read her words. She wrote that she never stopped praying, not for a single night, and that he was always, always welcome home. Tears streamed down his aged face as he realized that while he ran from guilt, she had waited with love. Her faith had bridged the gap of 50 years, reaching him even from beyond the grave to offer him peace. As darkness fell upon the village, Samuel wiped his eyes, stood up, and looked at the unlit candle on the sill. He found a match, struck it against the box, and the small flame illuminated the room with a warm glow. He lit the candle, restoring the light to the window, honoring the legacy of faith his mother had left behind. From the outside, the villagers saw the light return, a sign that the prayers had finally been answered in full. Samuel sat by the window, finally home, understanding that true faith is the bridge that connects us across all distance. Hannah's story teaches us that no prayer is ever wasted, even if the answer does not come when we expect. Faith is not about manipulating outcomes. It is about trusting the process and believing in the goodness of the divine plan. Her spiritual stubbornness was not foolishness. It was the highest form of love, a love that refused to ever give up. Samuel lived the rest of his days in that house, keeping the candle burning, a living testimony to his mother. He learned that while we cannot control the timing of our lives, we can control the consistency of our faith. Perhaps you are waiting for an answer today, praying for a miracle that seems delayed or denied by the silence. Let Hannah's story remind you that silence is not absence, and a delay is not a denial of your hope. Keep lighting your candle, keep whispering your prayers, and trust that they are being held safely until the right time. True faith is the strength to keep believing when everyone else tells you it is time to extinguish the light. It is about leaving a legacy of hope that outlives your own doubts and inspires others to hold on longer. The light you kindle today may guide someone home long after you are gone, just as Hannah's light guided Samuel. Her chair may be empty, but the room is filled with the presence of a love that conquered 50 years. Reconciliation did not happen in the way she expected, but it happened in the way that mattered most for his soul. Sometimes the answer to our prayers arrives in the quiet moments after the storm, bringing a peace beyond understanding. Like a flower growing through stone, faith finds a way to bloom even in the harshest and most unlikely conditions. Samuel opened his heart to the village, sharing the wisdom of his mother and the lesson of his own return. The village that once pitied Hannah now honored her, realizing that her waiting was the strongest action of them all. One woman's stubborn faith had transformed a tragedy into a testimony that would be told for generations to come. So if you are praying for a prodigal to return or a miracle to happen, do not blow out your candle. Your faith is the fuel that keeps hope alive, and as long as there is light, there is always a way. Hold on to your convictions with spiritual stubbornness, for the breakthrough often comes just when you are ready to quit. The darkest hour is indeed just before the dawn, and your morning is coming if you just endure the night. Let the story of Hannah and Samuel be the anchor for your soul. When the waves of doubt rise high, remember that love is patient, love is kind, and true love never fails to keep a light burning for return. May you find the strength to be the Hannah in your own life, waiting with grace and trusting with courage. And may you find the peace that comes from knowing you have done all you can, and the rest is God's. Thank you for joining us on this journey of faith, hope, and the incredible power of a mother's persistent prayer. Thank you for watching Golden Rule Wisdom. May you find the strength to keep your own faith burning bright tonight.